room is pretty dark right now, but so my room is like pretty dark right now, but I think this might work. I hope it's focused enough. I did this already, but it's like it wasn't focused. Anyway, so hi, my name is Paul, and welcome to the channel again. Like and subscribe and all that jazz and all those things. We're gonna talk about data. Data is I don't know, my job today, my job is to kind of convince you that data is big business. I feel like most people already know that, but yeah, everybody always needs a sort of reminder, or whatever you can call it. So basically, contrary to what most people think, the true business of Amazon is actually AWS. So Amazon Web Services is the primary place that Amazon gets its working operating profits. So retail is only a small part of what Amazon actually uses to run the big business. So Amazon Web Services is of course a cloud computing platform. Started around in the early 2000s, I think, when Jeff had noticed that Jeff had noticed that data was going to be big, and people needed to store stuff in the cloud and whatever. It's interesting that Amazon's real business is just a bunch of servers somewhere in wherever, I don't know, the Amazon, somewhere in the world. That's Amazon's real business. Their secondary, well, I guess their secondary business is, retail and all the other junk that they do. So we try to so you kind of want to see, okay, Amazon as a company was primarily a data-driven business. So as a retail service, initially they noticed that they noticed patterns in the algorithm and so on, and the patterns they noticed kept feeding the algorithm. So it's technically a form of AI, but most people really don't think of it don't talk about it as much as we should, I guess. But the information is continuously fed into the machine, and it improves, and the more it improves, the more data they collect. So Amazon as an entity was collecting a bunch of data, and all of that data has to pull into somewhere, and it was pulling into its own algorithm and feeding the business. So that's kind of what a lot of companies do. Google, Netflix, Amazon, they're kind of using a lot of your data and a lot of the data that the consumers, I guess, are offering, quote unquote, to the company. And the more they offer this data, the more data they collect, the more value they get out of it. The more they know your habits, the better the algorithm gets, etc., etc. Kind of like how TikTok does, I guess. But you notice that from the start and from the jump, from the early days of Amazon at least, they were a data-driven business. In the early 90s, companies typically used these things they only used mainframe computers. So that was the time when 200 megabytes was like, a lot. Now it's like nothing. But the days where we kept on seeing a bunch of guys, we kept on seeing in those old days mainly mainframe computers. Mainframe computers would do sales lists, inventory, and stuff like that. Basic stuff. With the rise of the bigger companies, Facebook, Amazon, whatever, with the rise of those, there was more data collected, and there was like a boom. And that's why I talked about AWS and whatever. So because they guys had a lot of data, people needed to store that data. They needed cloud computing and stuff like that, and they needed a place to store all that stuff. So big businesses developed, and these guys collected a lot of data. So Google collects data on trends. Netflix collects data on the information that they get, things like that. And as time goes on, more and more data is produced, more and more data becomes valuable, and consumers, their habits and stuff like that, are a key part in the ecosystem of building the business that they build. So how the hell do these companies even use the data? Well, first of all, data is not, for most businesses, data is not the primary thing that they create. It has often been an offshoot of the main product. For example, Google created Google Trends, but they only created Google Trends because all they noticed that this is what's trending, and we can create this and blah 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 blah. It's just an offshoot of the company. It's the quote unquote leftover stuff that they would have never used, but because the data is available, why not? Why not use it? So Netflix is a big data-driven business. A lot of these companies now are being driven by the data that they create as an active decision making. I talked about Amazon before, but Amazon did not necessarily use the data for primarily as something to push the company forward. Like, it won't really make Amazon choose, and maybe let me not use the Amazon example, but a company like Netflix is primarily a data-driven business. They feed their algorithm. People watch various shows. When people notice that when people notice that, okay, this show is a banger, this show works and whatever, they take the concepts of those different shows and then they make a new show or whatever. Try to kind of improve on what people want. But technically that doesn't always work. You notice that Netflix produces a lot of crap and then produces like one or two bangers and then crap and then something like that, because they're primarily sometimes they don't really put people within the process, so it might not be the best. But Reed Hastings thought that went through. They take the algorithm, they feed it a lot of data, and the more data they feed it, the better, the more consumer information that they have. And of course, Netflix can also sell that information to another company. And if another company, I don't know, like merch or something, if another company wants to use, they want to sell merch or whatever, they might take Netflix's data and make Squid Game merch because Squid Game is blowing up and whatever. Something along those lines. A lot of companies are driven by data. But so as these companies have grown, because data has become such huge components of the companies, they start producing a lot of public data. Google has public data. Netflix has, not sure if Netflix has the public data, but governments produce public data, and there's a lot of raw data that's around and that's uninterpreted, that a lot of people use for the sake of that a lot of people are using for that a lot of people are just leaving in wait. So there's a lot of government data that just stays on the internet and people don't really use it for anything. So a bunch of companies decided that, okay, this data is useful, let's sell it in one way or another, or let's use it in one way or another and create products from it. So comes in things like Crunchbase, comes in things like CB Insights, companies that take raw data and just process it and sell it to other people. So businesses, and these are big businesses by the way, and they have become products from the data that has been that's being funneled, and some of it is public, some of it is private. They do some of their own research and stuff like that. But in the end, the businesses have become pretty damn big. So the more people consume information, the more people watch videos on the internet, the more people use TikTok, the more people do whatever they do, there will be more information and there will be more data, and there will be a lot more being created because because I guess there's more information, more data production, more need for more computers in the cloud, more need for more processing of data, and with AI and whatever, and it needs more data to produce, and the AI itself is data anyway. The whole world is just gonna be the mass of data production. And the best thing to do is, yeah, pretty much get into it. I think data is obviously the idea is data is the next big thing. So if you want, get into the data, get into the data business. So that's it for today. Yeah, so that's it about data. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.